Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here and ready to learn how to save 1 hour per day every single day with ChatGPT. This is not going to be a super technical deep dive and walkthrough. And if you're looking for a ChatGPT tutorial, that's not what I'm going to do. You need to first know how you're going to add a tool to your workflow before you get into that nitty gritty. If you've ever bought or downloaded productivity software and spent more time learning how to use it than the time it promised to save you, put the word time in the chat below because I have spent so much time trying to learn productivity tools and I want to get that time back. Time is what I want to help you get back. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat. I will answer them all at the end, and it's going to be amazing. The reason most people try and fail with ChatGPT is that we start trying to learn things that aren't useful. We start with learning things that seem cool or interesting to other people, and then we don't reuse that task. So that time saver we learned was a total waste. ChatGPT can be both your best friend and your worst enemy because it's capable of just so many things. You can easily get distracted by the interesting to the detriment of the useful. In the past year, I've trained over 500 experts to become entrepreneurs with ChatGPT and written the bestseller ChatGPT Profits. Here is a simple strategy to correctly approach ChatGPT and maximizing its usefulness. Number one, find a repetitive task that you do every week that takes less than 100% of your attention. Two, develop a process for ChatGPT to replace this task. And three, test and tweak to improve over time. In this live training session, I'm going to cover a little bit on each of these topics today. And if you can learn this process, you can save a lot more than an hour per day. But that's where I want you 7 days from now. I want you to save 7 days 7 hours in the next 7 days. And if that's what you're here for, just put the word hour in the chat below. If you want to save 1 hour per day, let me know because I am looking at the chat box. I figured out how to work. Because otherwise, what are we doing here? So let's start with number one. Start with the right task. It's so easy to get caught up in all the cool things that ChatGPT can do, but cool isn't useful. The boring is where the magic happens. I buy a lot more soap than I do stereos. Take a look at your week and look for a task that you have to do every week, but that you could do with the television on. This is how you know that it doesn't take 100% of your attention. Here are some really common possibilities: checking email, making meeting notes, converting notes into a blog post, email, or other type of content, converting content between formats, such as making short video clips for a podcast, creating podcast show notes, writing the bullet points for sales presentations and webinars. And these are just a few possibilities. What do you spend the most time doing each week that you would love for a virtual assistant to handle for you? Let me know in the chat so that I can share a specific process for your task at the end of this training. The more you interact with the comments, well, the more I can customize the training and content just for you. You have the power to affect this training. And if you're watching this later, well, I'll cover your questions in my next live session. You can affect the future. So, the first task that I replaced is editing. My old process for editing a book was to use a piece of software that made a huge list of potential changes, and I had to check every single one of them, all while manually rereading the book. While this method is faster than doing it without any software help, it still takes me a week to edit a book, and that's a lot of hours that I wanted back. ChatGPT doesn't make spelling mistakes, it doesn't make grammar mistakes. I can run an entire book through ChatGPT and I know the finished product will have zero punctuation, spelling, or grammatical mistakes. And I don't really have to pay attention while it's working. I can read the finished product quite quickly and in about 20% of the time the original task took. I'm always looking for tasks that don't really require me to personally do the work as long as the output is acceptable. This is where the magic happens. And I love removing boring tasks from my schedule. I go a lot into specific processes for my bestseller, ChatGPT Profits. And now that you know which processes you want to replace, you could just skip to that chapter in my book. Just put the word profits in the chat and I'll send you the link. Absolutely free. The book is filled with the exact prompts that I use to grow my business. You can just copy and paste prompts that already work and skip the entire Chat GPT learning curve. Step number two is to develop a process. I get paid thousands of dollars to design custom Chat GPT prompts for clients every week. And I'm going to share with you the exact process that I use to develop time saving bots. You need two pieces of information to build and test a great ChatGPT process. First, you need an ideal output. Take your output from your boring task last week, and that's going to be the standard you compare ChatGPT's output to this week. I'll show you how this works in just a moment. The second piece of information you need is the raw data you want ChatGPT to work with. This could be the email you need to reply to or the podcast episode you want to make short clips from. So we have example output as our destination and we have raw data as our starting point. Now we just had to develop a process to turn that raw data into that good output. I know I'm talking a little bit techy here, so an example will make this much easier to understand. Every week, I have to create show notes for the artificial intelligence podcast. To write them myself takes me about 1 to 2 hours because I have to re listen to the episode, pause when I hear a good quote, and write down the time codes. I don't like doing it, but it's necessary. Here's how I get ChatGPT to do all of that work for me. I say, ChatGPT, here are show notes from my podcast last week, and upload a document with the previous set of show notes that I wrote and want to be the model for perfection. Then I say, here is a copy of the transcript of this week's episode. Please make show notes for this week using the same format and structure as last week's notes. That's it. That's my big secret now revealed. I write a single prompt that has my source material and desired result, and I can paste it each week with a new episode. Your first task may be slightly different in the prompt, but the rest of the process is going to be exactly the same. This idea can be applied to any task that you do. I know a few people did say that they spend too much time answering emails. If you're like me, you don't actually say too many different things in your emails. I probably have 100 different emails that I send out in response to different questions. And your ideal output is for ChatGPT to write an email that sounds like you wrote it. The best way to do that is write examples of past emails you've written. Here's how you can do that. I can download all of my sent emails for the past year and feed those into ChatGPT as the data source and give it the new emails to reply to for me. It will use my past behavior to write replies to all those new emails. And these are just a few of the processes that I cover in my bestseller, ChatGPT Profits. You can buy it on Amazon right now, and I'll love it if you do. Many people buy it every single day. Or you can put the word profits in the chat below, and I'll give you a link to download it absolutely free. It's just my way of saying thank you for spending time with me here today. Now, let's move on to the third and final step in this process. This is where most people fail. Step three is test and tweak. Many of my clients are shocked when a prompt doesn't work perfectly 100% of the time right out the gate. They have an expectation that ChatGPT is a magical solution. It's not. It requires human interaction to achieve maximum success. I see far too many people having ChatGPT write their social media content and posting it without reading it. If you've seen content lately in your feeds that was obviously written by ChatGPT in the past month, just put the word ChatGPT in the chat. Let me know that you know what I'm talking about. You need to read every email ChatGPT writes, just like I check the show notes before I publish them. I don't want a broken link, misspelled name, or something even worse going out the door with my name on it. It doesn't matter that ChatGPT wrote it. You'll still get either the credit or the blame. In the background, OpenAI is constantly updating and changing their models. That means a prompt may get a slightly different response today